So I had these big plans that I was going to vlog and blog and blah, blah, blah the whole time that I was down here in Florida. And now I'm almost finished with my first, because I've extended my first Disney college program semester. And I've hardly told anybody anything except Facebook. So this is about my current role in merchandise. I use air quotes because merchandise was one of the things that I said I would do. It was like medium interest or something whenever I filled out my form, but I have experience in merchandise, and I wasn't against it. I originally had another role, and I had to be recast, and all kinds of stuff happened in 1 week. I had no phone, so casting couldn't get a hold of me, and eventually I went directly to the casting building, and I talked to the guy, and he was very nice. He said, "Oh, you have an interest in PhotoPass?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Oh, we're all gone on PhotoPass, sorry." And then he was like, "Oh, interest in merchandise?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, where would you like to work? What's your favorite park?" I said, "Hollywood Studios." "Oh, blah, blah, backlot." If you know anything, you know the backlot door just closed. "Oh, no, we don't have anything there." Okay, actually, I worked the shop since there because I picked up shifts, but they didn't need anybody full-time. "What about Magic Kingdom?" "Well, I was originally supposed to be in a resort, which is going to be like hell, could be hella boring." And I was like, yeah, it's Magic Kingdom. It's like the big famous park with the castle that everybody comes here for. It's like, yeah. "Well, what about the Emporium?" Well, as of then, I'd been to Magic Kingdom just a few times, but even I knew the Emporium was the huge store in the front of the Magic Kingdom. I wasn't quite ready to be like, yeah, put me in the Emporium. So then he's just like listing random places, and he's like, "The circus." And I'm like, "The circus? I'd like to work there." Okay. Because the time I went to the circus, the only time before I ever worked there was I rode Dumbo with my roommate. I did not go into Big Top Souvenirs, which is my store, and I had no idea about anything to do with it. Turns out Big Top Souvenirs, according to people I work for, is the second largest selling, store that sells stuff in the park. Like we sell the second amount of stuff behind the Emporium, which is huge. Our store's pretty big. It has 4 zones and a case line and a kitchen. And people get lost in the store all the time. If you work there, you'll get lost in the store for a week or two, probably. Especially like stock rooms if you're not actually stocking. So that's my whole point, is what do I actually do at my job? Well, to say the weirdest thing is that the job that most prepared me for working for Disney is working for Kmart. Because I worked in ladies' fashions, but, also soft lines, so other clothing and infants and stuff like that. And I was on the floor, mainly. The person I worked for didn't like to give people up to registers, which is good because I didn't want to do registers when I was there. So mainly I was stocking and assisting members, is what we call them at Kmart, or customers if you are a normal person, or guest if you work at Disney. And putting stuff out, assisting people, eventually learning how to redo all the parts of the floor, put new things up, all that kind of stuff. So I do that at the Big Top. That wasn't the first thing I learned how to do. That's floor stock. You'll have whole floor stock shifts if you work there, which could be 6 to 10 hours of just making sure everything looks show ready, which is, straightening things, or zoning as they would call it anywhere. But the first thing I started out on was register, which you would expect on merchandise. Register's fine. It takes a while to learn stuff on the computer, especially I thought the hardest thing when I started was shipping, but now I don't think it's that bad. It's just time consuming and annoying, especially when they don't tell you till after. But anyways, the second thing that I learned there was that we have a whole hat section, and we stitch hats. We don't hand stitch hats, so people are, it's not a big deal. I am terrible at sewing. I love fashion. I took sewing when I was in junior high. I got a sewing machine whenever I was out of school because I wanted to make my own clothes, like I'm saying, for fashion reasons, and also I wanted to resell them because I used to, internet stuff. And I'm terrible. And I was looked at it and I freaked out. This giant sewing machine, and my trainer was I was like, oh no, I almost failed sewing. Oh no, I failed sewing in school, but it's fine. I can do this. I'm just Okay, so there is a computer component and it stitches it, but like the main thing is the hats want to be crooked, especially little tiny infant hats and sometimes youth, like the ears don't line up right. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, they're called ear hats, and I put one out, but I didn't bring it out, and now this video would take 100 years if I did that. So the point is that we also do hat stitching, which means I could pick up shifts at the Chapeau, which is on Main Street. And I haven't because I don't really want to stitch hats for a whole shift. But it has happened that like the third time I was on hats, the other person who was working with me was EHH, which is extra hours. Like I work at other places, and if you don't have the proficiencies, they're not going to have you do the job. So I had to do it all by myself, for a couple shifts, I'd say, of 6 hours. So now I like know what I'm doing, but like nobody's perfect. So it's not my favorite thing, but it's not the worst thing ever anymore. Like the first couple times. The worst thing ever is not register, it's not floor stock. Oh, there's also a thing called HOH, which is heart of house, which is putting the stuff out, like I guess in the stock rooms before people who are going to stock actually put it out on the floor. I think that's what it is. Or you also stock on the floor. I'm really not positive. The point is, I haven't done that one, and I don't know if I'll get a chance now. Probably not. The main thing I hate about our store, oh no, I mean, I don't really like it. I don't love it. Is we have a confectionery, we have a case line, we have a kitchen. Yay! You know how much I love to cook. Not. I hate to cook and I'm terrible at it. To the extent that I believe that anybody can follow a recipe, but you've still got to pay attention and not burn things and be fast enough and all this other stuff that I'm not good at. And when I was in training, my trainer literally was like, we're going to make one of each of these kind of apples just so whenever you come in one day and it says make 60 apples, you don't freak out. And I was just like, well, that freaked me out because I don't want to make 60 apples. You're not supposed to call in. I called in one of my days of training because it was production. And I didn't want to do it. And it freaked me out. And of course, I had to redo it anyways because it's training. But I try to trade or give away all my production shifts now, although they can still pull you in if they need you, as in last week or earlier this week or whenever it was, because I work a lot, in which I guess it was 2 or 3 days ago, when I came into work and I was registered, and then I was told that we were overstaffed, and they were going to put me in the kitchen, and I was going to do cake pops. And it sounds like cake pops aren't hard, especially because the pieces of cake are pre-made and cut into a circle. And then you add like marshmallows for Mickey ears. But I was told in training when I tried to put ears on things like apples and cake pops that I don't make mice, I make monkeys because I put the ears too far down. So as you can see, I'm terrible at it. And anytime I'm in the kitchen and have to do anything, everyone makes fun of me, which isn't a new thing in my life, but I don't seek it out. And I don't see why I have to do something so ridiculous. Whenever I did the Disney interview, they asked me, because I put no on quick service or full service. I would not do food. I've done food jobs, McDonald's, whatever, fast food in the past, and it is not for me. And they were like, oh, would you be okay working in a merchandise location that also has prepackaged food? It's like, of course. Who cares about selling bags of pretzels or whatever? This is not prepackaged food. This is food. So I've never done any of the actually making things, like real sort of shifts, because, like I said, I'm terrible at it. The other day, I got out of it and got to do case line. What I have done is fruits and dishes, which is washing dishes, and then making fruit, which sounds like making fruit is not that hard because it's just dipping stuff in chocolate, or actually also cutting it up and stuff and making sure it's all the right sizes and you don't have to damage out, which is throw away a bunch of food, which is terrible, and we do it all the time. But, yeah, you have to do everything before the chocolate hardens, and you're not supposed to do things a certain way because that's not, like, the safety thing. And so basically, it sucks, and I was terrible at it. And this kid who was picking up extra hours, who used to work there, told me that he had to throw away a bunch of the fruit I made. And it's like, I don't even want to make this stupid fruit because I'm terrible at it. And then washing dishes wasn't so bad for like 7 hours. But when it came into like 10 or 11 hours, and then everyone was throwing stuff at me, even stuff I didn't have to wash, like they could have done some of the parts themselves, or just wipe it down with stuff, which is what I do when I work those sections. Yeah, it was pretty bad, especially at the end of the night when I was the person holding up the kitchen, because I didn't accept any help earlier in the night because I didn't know it was going to get like that. So yeah, I don't wish those kind of shifts on anybody. I have one coming up, and no one will take it. which is wonderful, and it's really long, and it's till 3 in the morning, so you can guess what that's probably going to be. Usually I get put on case line because they know I don't know how to make anything. Case line is like working in a bakery where you would hand people stuff out of the case line. So they look in the window and they tell you they want a cake pop, or more likely they tell you they don't know what they want, or they tell you the wrong thing, and you hand it to them. And for all of this, you get paid something like an extra 50 cents an hour if you're actually on kitchen. And then there's other stuff, like if you're working late, third shift, which is super freaking late, Ninja Kingdom crap. But, yeah, if anybody works food service and you think they don't have it hard, they have it hard, because I know, and I've hardly ever done it at all. I mainly just see it going on and assist. Because also you'll do kitchen roustabout if you do this job, which is kitchen floor stock, which is constantly providing more food to whoever's doing case line and stuff, and it's not easy. And I feel like when I do that, or whenever I do register at Candy Register, which I do a lot, I feel like I should be getting paid the food price because it's food. And when I told one friend the other day when I was complaining about my job, because everybody complains about their job, don't mistake it, he was like, well, that's also because you're basically in quick service, which is not entirely wrong. So anyways, there's good things. There's people who come in and ask for very simple things like, where's the restroom? Where can I charge my phone? And I can tell them, or when is the character coming out, like for whatever party or whatever night. And I can give them all those answers. And they get excited and they thank me and they high five me, or I give a button or a sticker to a little kid, and the parents are really excited. So don't get it twisted. There's good things that I'm sure that are good in any area. And every once in a while someone's very excited that you can find an item for them that they really want to buy. But it's not my favorite role, I'm sure. I have another one coming up that's really cool. And if you do go into Disney, into casting, and somehow they give you a preference, because it wouldn't probably be through the college program, because that just happened because of my weird series of events. And they're like, where do you want to work? I would not suggest, if you hate food service, to end up working somewhere that has a food service component. I also picked up a shop at Villains and Vogue in Hollywood Studios on Sunset Boulevard. They have that attached to their store too. I luckily was not asked to cook in there, but it's not just in Magic Kingdom, and it's not just in my store. So, yeah, be aware if you have a choice of what the actual stuff is. I guess it would be like going into attractions and requesting to run Big Thunder Mountain when you've never rode Big Thunder Mountain. It wouldn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. So, yeah, the roles are going to have stuff in them that you don't expect. And that's something. I have a friend who's front desk at a hotel and does not particularly care for children, and had to do children's activities at the hotel because they needed somebody before. It was once, I believe. But stuff like that can happen, and you're just called upon to do it. It's just like in my park and the other parks, you get force extended, which means we decided to keep the park open longer because we're really busy, and you have to stay. It's not like when I worked at Kmart, and they're like, hey, somebody can't come in, they're sick. Can you work extra hours? I have been actually asked at studios if I can work extra hours, though they do force extend also. But force extending at studios is you're going to be here till 9. Not you're going to be here till 1, 2, 3. So, just that's the idea of what you're getting into if you're getting into merch. I'm not saying merch is bad. You can pick up lots of places. It's easy to pick up. It's easy to trade if you're on. It's easy to trade if you're on registers and you join every Facebook group there is. And it's not always soul crushing or anything. But know what you're getting into. Know your roles. Don't be like me and be like the first couple weeks like I can't do it because there's food, like, and figure it out early if you are in that, figure out that you can give it away if you can, or trade it. Although if your college programmers, people like to make a joke about us closing people, then you're going to have really bad hours a lot of the time, and people are not going to want to take your shift. So that's my experience in merchandise. And yeah, it depends where you are. I've picked up 2 shifts so far at the Star Wars store, or Star Tours store, or actual name Tatooine Traders, and for the most part, that's really fun. Guests are more excited about the purchases. There's no food, there's no hat stitching. You do build toys. If you hate that, you wouldn't like that job. I like that, even though it's not perfect.